Hello everybody and welcome to the final round of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan here from Phoenix. After 4 rounds of playoffs to come, we've got down to our final 5. Through Las Vegas, Dover, Richmond and Michigan, we got rid of 10 possible playoff drivers who could make it to this stage, but now we've got just our 5. Jesper Eriksson, who's dominated this season, Alexander Audsen, Erik Blix and Daniel Solo and Jonas Gunnarsson as well. It's going to be a fantastic finish to the season as it's winner takes all here from Phoenix, and if not, whoever finishes ahead of all the others will take home the 2024-25 title. It's the SEL finals by Gelleråsen Arena with myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Lorenzo Bonda alongside me for this RaceSpotTV broadcast. Good to be alongside you for this one, Lorenzo. It's championship finale day, and even though Jesper Eriksson is the glaring favourite, he's won the most races this season with 6. He's been dominant this season. The beauty of these playoff formats is that doesn't mean a whole lot coming into this final round.
No, not at all. Even basically is 5 drivers, 5 battles on their own. Basically mano a mano. So it's all out on the line. Everybody's gonna try to do their best and win this championship. Of course, they have their teammates. They might try to get in the way here and there because, you know, the other drivers are also part of the race. So wondering how that will play out in this 156 lap duel.
There is the picture of how the playoffs have gone. So Daniel Holmer, Linus Broström, Marcus Hagman, Oscar Fredriksson and Cedric Hornbaum were eliminated in round 2. In case you weren't with us 2 weeks ago, in round 1, Oliver Wallin was knocked out, although since then he's been having some very good rounds, by the way. He looks like he's going to finish 11th this season, ahead of Peter Helbro, Hackenschott, Evan Forsland and Kenneth Tier, who are the other 15 drivers. As you can see on the bottom of your screen there, by the way, half of the 4 playoff races so far we've seen have not been won by playoff drivers. In fact, the only playoff driver to win a race in these final 5 so far is Jesper Eriksson, who's added another 2 to his list, which, as I say, now number 6. That's an average, by the way, of 1 win every 3 races this season, as we've already had 18 so far this season. It has been a remarkable season from Jesper Eriksson, but as I say, that doesn't mean a whole lot now going into this final part of the season. It's not particularly about points. I'll give you an example. Linus Broström has got the 2nd most points of anybody this season, by the way, but he is out of the playoffs. Wallin's got 4th most of everybody. He was out the playoffs weeks ago. That just shows you what happens in this format. We're here though at Phoenix for the final round. It's 156 laps, which is exactly half of the real world distance. That's 250 kilometers, and it is with a stage on lap 65, although the playoff drivers themselves can't score any stage points. So it's going to be it could be quite a short race, depending on how many yellows there are here, Lorenzo, but very much remains to be seen about how many we are going to get. Slightly reduced numbers here tonight because it is the end of the season, and because all but 5 of the drivers are out of contention for the championship. Slightly less numbers, maybe that means a cleaner and more green race.
Yeah, hopefully, but also we have to take a look on how the beginning of the race is going to progress, right? And that's where normally the danger would come out with these cars. They're a little bit more loose whenever you try to get on the acceleration, especially if you go down on the apron and try to use a dog leg. So this is going to be quite interesting for us, as we're probably going to line up the grid eventually here, Ewan. But looking forward for this good race for everybody.
And speaking of which, everybody's just lining up now. So let's have a look at the starting grid for this final all-important round of the season. And my goodness me, what a front row we've got. Alexander Audsen and Jesper Eriksson, our 2 championship rivals, 2 of our playoff contenders at the front. Daniel Holmer is 3rd. He might well try and help his teammate there for Simray Sweden, who are also embroiled in a team's points battle tonight, by the way. Jonas Gunnarsson is the first of the Alkentech drivers. He starts from 4th. He is a playoff contender as well. Evan Forsland and Tony Uvenen are on row 3. That's one of the best qualifiers we've seen from those 2 for a little while. Linus Broström starts 7th, then of Daniel Solo and Erik Blix, the final 2 of our playoff drivers, all of whom find themselves in the top 9. Peter Helbro rounds out the top 10 with Joel Wallin and Eric Lundberg sharing row 6. Row 7 is Marcus Hagman, who got knocked out 2 weeks ago, and Jonas Skoglund, who was knocked out before the playoffs began. He didn't make the top 15. Dan Peppels is back after a few weeks off. Hackenschott alongside him. Björn Broström and Thomas Kinnell are on row 9, although Kinnell certainly didn't get a representative lap in there. Janus Leppert has got a gap next to him. with somebody who's gone missing. So Kenneth Tier and Marcus Stiller Marcus Stiller in particular will move on up on that line. Someone's gone missing in the session by the looks of things. They might have disconnected or something, because we have lost that driver. 21 drivers will take to the start of this final race of the season. As I mentioned, it is one of the lower attendance, but over the course of the season we've had 56 different drivers taking part in different various rounds, and we've had about 10 of them at all of the rounds so far. There are the important stats. As I mentioned earlier, a stage on lap 65 for those who still need the points, and if you're in the teams battle, then you certainly do. 4 tyre sets as always here, Lorenzo, and 2 green white checker attempts if we need them. 4 tyre sets though, it's going to be one interesting to balance as well, especially if there's early cautions. There'll be immediate decisions to make, as over 50 laps you lose about 1.5 seconds in terms of tyre wear.
Absolutely. This is one track where you can go really kind of really long on the fuel, especially given the fact we have 100% fuel capacity, so you can go long with the fuel. You can go nearly 80, as much as like 80 something laps. So you have to think about tire management, especially in the long run. And these 4 sets are going to come importantly, as we're going to get our green flag soon. Here, Ewan, good luck to everybody. Let's have a good race.
Let's hope we get a good finish to the season. As the pace truck pulls in, it will be a very long time until the race actually gets underway, as they move the start-finish line, as you all probably know, out of what used to be turn 2. It's now turn 4. We'll try and see how many times we make that mistake here this evening. It could be quite a few. Into the final couple of corners then for Eracingligan and Ericsson. What a performance in qualifying from Alexander Eracingligan, who takes his second pole of the season. Can he win for the second time this season and take the title as the final round of the Bohlin Svenska iRacing Oval Series gets underway here from Phoenix? It's immediately Eracingligan and Ericsson door to door on the way through the dogleg and in towards turn 1 for the very first time. 37 on the outside, trying to squeeze as much as possible so he can take the lead on the exit here of turn 2, side by side over what used to be the start finish line here. And yes, Ericsson looks like he's clear. The top 3 are all playoff contenders. Ericsson leads Gunnarsson out of the first lap of the race.
Yeah, and they need to think about safety for now. They cannot get themselves into kind of any trouble. So Ericsson already with a really good start out of the gates already, blocking any attempts for Ericsson to come in and try to do that overtake, especially on that inside, which normally would give you a little bit more grip on the beginning of the race, but not on this case.
Blix and Solid, the other two, down in 8th and 9th for the moment, but they'll just be happy to ride around and get underway here cleanly in this race. We have completed 2 laps here, and it is a better start than what we had last week, that's for sure. 2 weeks ago, I should say. It's been a pattern week on week on week where there have been some very, very early cautions, including 2 weeks ago at Michigan. We got fairly fair amount of them at Richmond as well. The couple of weeks before that, in fairness, not too many long green flag runs there either, but here we do have a nice run to start with at least, which is a positive thing, certainly. If we get 51 laps green, by the way, we'll have a record for the longest amount of distance covered without a caution flag being thrown. We'll see if we can get to that stage. If we can, we'll certainly be in the pit stop window with 156 laps. You can see these guys pitting in, you'd expect around lap 50 if we do go green to that distance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would still have a tire to spare, which is very important. You really don't want to be wasting tires out all like in every yellow flag, because we don't know how this is going to be in terms of attrition as we're looking towards Eric Lundberg climbing into the top 10, battling with Joel Bohlin on the outside. But here's the thing, even, which is going to be quite interesting, because they're driving the Xfinity cars. They're driving more cars that have more raw power, but they do not possess the same, let's just say, downforce capability, and also the same maneuverability the current Gen Cup cars in the NASCAR Cup Series do possess. So it's going to come down to the driver to properly manage tires every single lap they go in. And we're gonna see those lines potentially shifting from like early in lane to very late, like outside lane, just because they gotta manage tires very much as it goes on.
I think one of the great things about Phoenix actually is that even it's a very flat track and a short circuit, and I'm sure it has many detractors, but one of the things I do like about it is this section here through turn 1 and 2, the different lines you can take. Now again, I know the banking is really not very steep through there. In turns 1 and 2 it's only 9 degrees. However, it's so open on the inside there, especially in some of these late race restarts, if we get any. You certainly see this in real life. You see drivers searching all over the road down low there on the apron, searching for a line, searching for a bit of grip as well. It's one of the fascinating things about this circuit these days with the paved dogleg as well. So many open spaces to go into here through the dogleg and through turn 1 and 2 here as well.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about the dogleg, even in my point of view, is that dogleg is very tricky, especially when the tire's a little bit more used and you want to try to run as much as you can, but because you have to take a certain way, you just can't go flat out into the bottom. You just have to take a certain line into it. You can't go flat out, but the problem is the car can bottom out a little bit, and that bottoming out is going to throw you basically into the wall, and that can be your race ender.
This is out of turn 1 and 2 for Linus Broström as he makes a move on Edvin Forsland. These two side by side towards turn number 3, one certainly higher up in the championship than the other. Linus Broström second place in the point standings. Edvin Forsland is in 12th overall in terms of points. The reason why that's relevant, by the way, is for the team's championship overall, which is Simrace Sweden Pro and Moby Bright Esports, who'll be fighting over that one over the course of this evening. And we'll let you know at the end, hopefully, who has taken that one. But Simrace Sweden certainly off to a good start with that, and certainly looking to be in a strong position early on here as the first laps get complete at Phoenix. Here's Daniel Solo, who is running down in 9th place at the moment. He does have a tendency to start quite slowly and conserve his tyres and then utilise that better tyre wear later on in the stint. But even so, I'm not sure you'd be delighted with this start if you were Eric Blix or Daniel Solo, to be honest. 8th and 9th, a few seconds off of your other 3 rivals.
Yeah, I agree, especially as the stint goes on. This is not going to progress to them, even though from our point of view looks like they are saving a little bit of the equipment as things are getting more heated up the front with Forsland, Homer, Ovinen, and Broström. As Broström nearly was able to overtake Forsland right there, but here's the thing: this is one of the track that is not a lot of favors for the NASCAR. It's not even surprising that it's coming back to Homestead next year for NASCAR. It's been announced this week actually. So it's going to be kind of interesting how the race is going to progress here. I don't think it's going to get more race. I think this is going to become a gap race as the race goes on, even though it's fixed setup.
Yeah, we will wait and see if things can improve for Blix and Solo. It's interesting, that battle that's going on in front of Eric Blix here, actually. Edvin Forsland and Linus Broström are just in the way, really, of Eric Blix. Of course, more than entitled to be there, but it's proving to be a bit of a problem for number 95 right now as they make their way in towards turn 1 and 2 again. And actually the two groups seem to be getting connected here. Solo catching Blix a little bit. The battle for 10th continues. Lundberg, it's for 11th now. This is Joel Bohlin going backwards. Dan Peppel's trying to get down his inside in towards turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, so far the nose is going to be in, but can he get a good run that 329 now? On the inside, he actually can use the apron to get a little bit of more speed and time. And for now, he's going to retain that position for P11. Good move.
He stays on the inside line and stays in front. Bohlin is put in behind. Oh, no. Peppels could have shut the door up when he tries to shut the door eventually. And in the end, there's contact. If Bohlin hadn't just lifted out of that, then that would have been a spin and the first caution of the afternoon. But Bohlin there has the presence of mind to just lift off for a moment there. And Peppels gathered it up again. That was one of those moments where you think you're clear, but you're just not quite. Here's Forsland. He doesn't think he's clear just yet, but he's running Broström right up to the wall here through turn 1 and 2. Aggression again between these two, who are still battling in front of those two playoff contenders.
Yeah, it's good to see people going side by side and getting race early on. Like I said before, there's a good chance this race can become a little bit more of a gap race as we progress under green flag, but everything looking good so far. at the moment between these two, and Blake's right behind, just watching the action unfold as the 95 just waits for a move to pounce.
He's not going to make it 3 wide, Eric Blix. He's going to find that very difficult, so he's just got to wait for the moment. Can he do anything here? That's a little bit wide off the bottom there from Forsund, and I think Brostrom's going to have the run here. Blix staying in his slipstream, almost as if he's trying to follow him through now as he goes through the dogleg, and now towards turn 1 and 2 again. It's absolutely locked together, and Holmer's not pulling away, even despite the racing that's going on behind him. Brostrom again on the outside line with his nose in front of Forsund. Can he get his whole car in front and finally cover this one off? No, Forsund comes back again. It still goes on.
Still goes on, and what is going to be interesting is especially that outside for Forsland, for Brostrom actually, because that outside line, 3 wide, back to you, Ewan.
Goodness me. 3 wide, and Homer on the outside, I thought was biding his time, knowing that he was comfortable with those two sat behind him, but that's certainly not been the case in the end. Brostrom in the end makes 2 places, he's into the top 5, and Homer wins that back from Forsund at least, but for a moment there, Homer was going backwards very quickly.
Yeah, I honestly thought that Homer got bullied out of the position right there when they went 3 wide, and you could see Brostrom get a little bit understeer. Contact between Blix.
Yeah, he just hit Forsund in towards turn 1 there, just slightly.
Yeah, the nature of close racing on a tight group that has been battling lap after lap after lap after lap, and you have a contender for the championship wanting to move up.
It's super difficult to manage it, as you're seeing, for Forsund, Homer and Brostrom, who are all under pressure from the 95 car. Looking down low again through turn 1 and 2. Again, no way through, even just using a little bit of the apron there just to help the car get turned, as you so often see. On board now with Blixen towards 1 and 2. You can see him just having a peek there to further to the inside. And indeed, he will have another go at turn 1 and 2, you'd imagine. Forsund maybe himself will have a chance here as well. At Homer, here comes Blix. He's going to try and take advantage of that. Forsund just slightly slowed up there by the fact that Homer was in front of him. Here comes Blix on the outside line. This could be the moment where he finally gets his nose in front. He grabs the wall there off of turn 2. That's something you want to avoid here. But he's grabbed the wall for the first time tonight, just off of turn 2 there.
Yeah, I think Forsland drove Blix into the wall, like you said. So it's good that Blix managed to, avoid any more damage on that car, and now he's going full on Daniel Homer, as he's going to lose 1 more spot. Now the 4th contender slowly reaching inside the top 5.
And it indeed threw Blix into the top 6 now, after a couple of overtakes on the same lap here. A good bit of driving from number 95, but the problem is going to come when, you see the top 3 up in front. Look at the gap to the top 3 already for Blix. He's already 6 seconds behind them as Forsund tries to follow him through on Homer, by the way. That's not going to happen. 6 seconds is a really big gap to catch up to Jesper Eriksson here. So in the end, you're hoping for cautions, and that's never a great place to be.
Yeah, I think for now, the one thing that the Blix needs to keep on his mind is being inside the top 5, potentially top 4. If Overden paces drops a little bit on a lap-by-lap basis. But the thing is, Phoenix is that kind of track that if you have clean air, you can dictate your pace, you have no one in front of you. Like, for example, we're seeing here with Daniel Solo. He's struggling, and he's going to struggle even more with that hot air and dirty air paint on this car.
This is an important part of this race for Blix and Solo to get that track position back that they just wasn't able to gain through the opening part of qualifying there, as Blix now goes to the inside of Linus Brostrom, and he does get through. So Blix now into the top 5. It's now up to his teammate to start making moves, really. And Daniel Solo was just down the inside briefly of Edvin Forsund there. He couldn't get through, though. Into the top 5, though. That feels a bit significant for Eric Blix in this race. It's taken him 25 laps to get there, but he has now got into the top 5.
And judging from everybody, he looks to be one of the closest to being, within the same pace of Eracingligan. He actually was quicker from what it looks like on the last lap to Eracingligan. Eracingligan did a 28.528, whereas Blix did a 28.3. So like we were talking before, tire conservation, being in a good place, in a good air. I know being on the inside wastes a little bit of more tire, especially if you try to re-accelerate a little bit more hard and try to counter steer. But from what it looks like, Blake's doing a really good job as he's catching up to Eracingligan already.
Yeah, he's got some speed, and that's going to be encouraging, even if it wasn't shown in qualifying. He's showing it now in the race. So we stick on board with Solo here. He's got Lundberg right behind him, actually, by the way, and that's applying some pressure onto him. Dan Paples is in this train as well. This is all stemming basically from Tony Uvinen up to the front of the field. Although maybe more accurately you could say it's coming from Linus Brostrom at the front of this group. But anyway, you can see how congested it is, and you can see that not only does Solo need to move forward for his own race, and we know that, but actually looks like he needs to move forward so that he doesn't start moving backwards. Gerrit Lundberg's getting quite close now.
Not only him, but you can see basically P12. I was going to say P11 as well. Paples is not far behind. He's 1/10 behind, so he's within that train all the way back there towards the rear. So I think Solo needs to find a good place for him to start pouncing, because he needs to waste that rubber. He needs to go on a more aggressive strategy. He cannot rely to stay within this train and try to play the long game, because for now the long game is on Ericsson's side, even though it doesn't look like it for the time being. But he needs that aggressiveness out of the gate immediately. Otherwise, like you said before, he might lose positions.
Bohlin and Skoglund, by the way, have been changing positions like you wouldn't believe further down the field. It's a battle outside of the top 10, and it's not particularly relevant for the overall course of this race, and there's a quick look at them. Bohlin and Skoglund still, and indeed Skoglund going to be coming through here. Bohlin is inside the top 10 earlier, but it's fallen away since. Kenneth Tier has been in, by the way, for a long time. That's his second pit stop of the day, by the way. He's already 9 laps off the lead. He's been in the pit lane for quite a long time already this afternoon, as Eric Blix gets himself down the inside of Tony Uvinen. Uvinen, who only just missed out on the playoffs here this season. He was so close in that final race at Daytona. Well, now he's been overtaken by Blix, and he slides up in front of him in number 95. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 now, the playoff contenders. The only one disconnected is Solo, who is in 9th.
Yeah, and like we were saying before, Solo's day not getting any better. And Blix with another good lap, 28.9 of 597. Just 0.007 of a second slower than Ericsson's. But here's the thing: now that you got a little bit more clean air, you got about 0.7 of a second to Gunnarsson. You need to start, pouncing a little bit more and use the advantage you have. Try to get to Gunnarsson really quickly, and then start striking hard on Eracingligan, because there's a possibility for you to do that if you just keep yourself clean for the most of this midterm run that you have. Well,
he's got to start making some progress here, Solo, as we approach the end of lap 34. It is Jesper Eriksson who still leads by 2 seconds here ahead of Alexander Aronson. The stage is only 30 laps away here from Phoenix. Don't forget, for the playoff contenders, it doesn't particularly matter. For the teams championship, it certainly does. And that's why SimRace Sweden and MobileRight Esports will be thinking about that, heading towards this pit stop phase, which looks like it's coming up again in 15 minutes' time. But for the playoff contenders, they can't score stage points. It is all about who finishes ahead of the others. And right now, Jesper Eriksson looks in control. Although Alexander Aronson out-qualified him, Eriksson has raced 2 seconds better than him so far over 35 laps.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think for Eriksson, the fact that he has this lead and he has basically clean air to work on, I would say for the next 4 or 5-ish laps, because he's about to reach into traffic. Canal is going to be the one, and then Bjorn Bromstrom is going to be the next one. He can work with that, but after that, as soon as he reaches out traffic, is that thing, how quickly are you gonna get through traffic without losing time? Because you can gain a lot of time if you clear yourself out quickly, but you can lose just as quick as that, and the other ones can take advantage of that. So Ericsson need to be on the mindset of clearing out as quick as you can and as cleanly as you can, so you can pass up the problem to Ericsson and everybody else in the grid.
Here comes Bohlin down the inside of Holmer in towards 1 and 2, and no chance there. Solo now gets even closer, off of 2. He's got a nicer line. You can just see him ducking underneath there, and surely he's going to have a look at turn 3 here, is he? Nope. Could have been aggressive on the brakes if he wanted to, but no, and he's slightly missed the entry there. He'll be hoping for a better exit, but he's just slightly missed the entry compared to where he needed to be. This is Blix, who's showing some good race pace now. Not only has he shown that he can make overtakes, he's also showing that he's got speed, and Jonas Gunnarsson is overtaken. That's the first of our changes between playoff contenders since the very start of this race when Ericsson overtook Aronson. That's Eric Blix into 3rd place at the expense of his teammate.
Absolutely, and like I said before, Ericsson just got into traffic, managed to overlap Canal, lost a little bit of time in the process, lost a little bit, about, I would say, 0.2 of a second to Ericsson on the previous lap, but then again, Ericsson's about to reach into traffic as well in a short bit, so let's see if that gain is going to be on Ericsson's positive side, or it's going to be for our race leader.
Well, just 10 laps now until 1/3 distance, or 12 laps rather. And will we see pit stops at that stage, or are we going to see people going to the stage? Again, those teams' championship points to think about. The drivers' points as well, if anybody's interested in gaining a place or losing one, indeed, in the standings. Linus Broström and Marcus Hagman, for example, only 11 and 12 points off Daniel Holmer here. They could reduce that with a good stage, as speaking of Linus Broström, he's gone into the top 5 now at the expense of Tony Uvinen. The best of the rest as things stand, Linus Broström, who's going to be kicking himself that he missed out on those playoff final 5 with difficult race at Richmond especially, which set him back, and Michigan, which just wasn't quite enough to recover the points. Broström, though, into the top 5 at the expense of Tony Uvinen, who's lost a couple of places in the last 10 laps.
Yeah, lost another place, but the good thing for him is that Forsland, even though last lap was about 0.3, he's been 0.3 quicker, so he might lose a position to Forsland as well as the race goes on, right before actually the end of the stage. Question is for Gunnarsson, Broström is actually being faster than you, so there's a good chance that number 33, which is a contender for the championship, might lose that 4th spot, and that 4th spot is golden, especially if you're trying to fight for the stage, and we're gonna have that break for the pit stops in maybe about 20-something laps.
Yeah, well, let's see who decides to go early and who decides to wait long. I mean, the drop-off is already a 1.5 seconds for Jesper Eriksson. His best lap's 27.1, just did a 28.6. He's about to cross the line again here, so we'll get another view as to what his next lap time is, 28.5 that time. So yeah, we're looking at about a 1.5 seconds already here as Holmer loses another place. He's down to 10th now at the expense of Paples after Solo got through not that long ago. He's there, a 1.5 seconds already. Goodness me, what's it going to be like after 65 laps, even another 20 laps? They could be over 2 seconds off their best lap times.
Yeah, something like that. Best lap off the race is 27.1. They already reached that. I saw like some 29s already being done, but then again, it's not from the leaders, and if it was done by the leaders, it was done by the leaders when they were overtaking people or overlapping people. As I kind of have thought there was a half spin from Solo, but that wasn't the case. Just optical illusion playing tricks right now.
Kenneth Tier, by the way, is out of the race for sure. That's the end of his season here in 2024-25. He's going to finish 15th for the drivers' points, the bottom of those who have made the playoffs here this season, I think, anyway. That should be where he finishes at the end of all this, as we go on board back in the pack with 11th place Derek Lundberg. This is Forsland down the inside of Tony Uvinen, who qualified really well, Tony Uvinen, and raced well to start with as well in 4th, but he's lost a few places in the last 10 laps. Meanwhile, in the background, Paples is just applying some pressure to Solo as Uvinen applies that back again to Forsland. Not quite happening as we approach 1/3 distance now. We're getting close to those risk takers deciding to come in, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, this race has gone kind of quick. You talked about, not having a lot of drivers in. Of course, if we had like 40 drivers driving around this oval, probably things would have been different, like you normally would see at NASCAR and in the NASCAR Coca-Cola series. That probably would have been different because it would be a much more attrition-based race, especially in the mid to the backpacks. But because we have just 21 cars, of course this makes a much more clean race from top to bottom, and it's more like gap racing and tire management racing than anything else, like I said before.
Yeah, it's a race of patience so far. We are a couple of laps, by the way, until a season record, by the way, as earlier on this season we had the longest green flag run. In fact, it wasn't even that long ago, really. The end of the Daytona race was a really, really long green flag run. We went green again with about lap 20, 25, something like that, 30 maybe, and we obviously raced right the way through to, I think, lap 100 on that day. Anyway, we did a lot of laps towards the end of Daytona, green flag pit stops and everything at the end of that one, and at Las Vegas the week after. We got a very long green flag run to begin with. 410 kilometers it was until Daniel Homer and Joel Bohlin made contact out of turn 4 at Vegas. Well, at the end of this lap right now, we are going to break that record, and we're going to have a season record of the amount of time without a green flag, or without a yellow flag, apologies, to break up the green flag run. It was nearly over right there. My goodness me, that was close as they went side by side there, Homer and Lundberg. But they are going to get to the end of the lap. That's over 410 kilometers without a single yellow flag. And who knows, we might well get another 100 laps around here without one of those yellow flags, which could even bring us to over 550 by the end of the race. We'll wait and see on that, of course, but an astonishing achievement by everybody in the, first of all, last 100 laps at Michigan, to go 104 laps without a single caution, and then to go the first third of this race without a single yellow flag either.
Absolutely, but then again, but watch out, you know about the commentator's curse, right? You know that thing exists, even though it was McGlade and some other people might say, no, it doesn't exist, but even then, you nearly jinxed yourself.
I know, I did nearly jinx it there.
It would have been funny, though.
Yeah. We'd have been a lap short in that, if that spin had actually materialised, by the way, as Solo goes down the inside of Uven, and that should be a pretty easy pass based on what the trajectory of the 84 has been in the last couple of moments. Lap car in the meantime, just slow on the racetrack. Bjorn Brostrom and Thomas Cadell, the only drivers who have gone a lap down so far, by the way, and that is 41 of Bjorn Brostrom, who is just being put a lap down there. Nobody, though, has decided to come in after 1/3 distance. Maybe everybody's going to push onto the stage before they decide to pit in here. Maybe they're going to run themselves out of fuel before they pit, I don't know, but they're pushing on for now.
Yeah, absolutely. But I kind of have expected that. Like you said before, I know the tires can go as long as the fuel stand can go as long as 80 laps. So if you kind of do your thing cleanly, you can do the same stuff without, the drop off is going to be great, of course, but still you can kind of manage that as the race goes on. As I was just going to mention that, Linus Brostrom going to 4th place. He was getting very close to the number 33. And for Gunnarsson right now, with basically 9 laps to go to the stage end, this is going to hurt a lot on his track position, which in Phoenix is vital for you to get that long run and contend for the race.
So far, in terms of long run speed, it looks like it's just gone away from Gunnarsson in the last few moments. Same for Tony Uvenen as well in 84, and that's why you've seen some others rise towards the top. Eric Blix has got good long run speed, though, as you can see. He's actually caught Ericsson a bit in the last few laps, but last 20 laps or so. So only got a bit closer. Now, if he doesn't get a caution, then I don't think he will catch up before the end of the race because of the margin that Ericsson already has. But if we stay like this, and get a caution, then it'll be right in the game for a long green flag run if we get one towards the end here. Brostrom does get through on Gunnarsson then, and it looks like Forsund is going to be coming through as well. Slightly concerning for Gunnarsson. This is looking like it's going to be a race with long green flag runs, and for the moment, number 33 doesn't have the speed on those kind of runs. It doesn't look like anyway through the first 58 laps.
Yeah, is that thing of tire management that, you know, if for these cars, not a lot of people, because it is so different from the Cup Series. And I'm gonna bang on this tracker. I've driven the Cup Series a few occasions here and there. Of course, I'm not as experienced as these guys are, nor have the same iRating as they do. But from driver feeling, it's so different from driving from one car to the other. They feel different, as Forsland's going to go for the move.
Down the inside, Evan Forsland's going to go through here and get himself into the top 5. It's been a good drive so far from Forsland. He has really raced well so far. Currently 12th place in the overall point standings. By the way, it's over 350 off the lead, but he's going to be able to overtake Cedric Holmbaum here since he's not here, and not that far away from Hackenschott, maybe overhauling him. So that could be a top 10 in points by the end of the season, if indeed he's interested in that. As we hit lap 60, just 5 laps to go now until we get to the stage. And as I mentioned, those points going to be so important for Sim Race Sweden and for Morby Bright Esports as well, as they continue on in this race. Jesper Eriksson, part of the Sim Race Sweden setup, though, is going to take the full points by the looks of things. Morby Bright Esports will take 2nd place with Aurton, and Olkentech will take 3rd by the looks of things as well. So it's going to be split fairly evenly across the teams. And considering it's only stage points, not end of race points, there's not too many available in all fairness. Only 10 for the winner and 1 for the 10th placed driver. Jesper Eriksson has picked up 112 stage points so far this season, though that is a third more than anybody else, a third more than anybody else, excuse me. Linus Broström and Alexander Aurton next closest on just 81. It would be Eriksson's 7th stage win of the season, as he looks to take his 7th win of the season overall and take the title with it as well.
Showcasing a dominant season from Eriksson is insane. How well he's done throughout the championship. Normally we say irregularity wins race. You win 2 championships, you don't necessarily have to win them all, but I think Eriksson has put a stamp that wins win championships as well. So can't complain with that in my books.
Yeah, wins certainly win championships these days. That is for sure. As Homer looks to the inside of Uvenen. This could end up with no stage points at all here for Tony Uvenen, and that would be an unfair reflection of his efforts so far this afternoon, I think, but that might be what's happening to him right now, as he's all in trouble out of turn 2 there. Homer will continue to apply that pressure. The fact there's only 2 laps here might well save Uvenen, but he's only scraping a top 10 at the end of 65 laps by the looks of this.
Yeah, and it could be my impression, but it looks like he hit the... or scrapped the right rear on the wall, so maybe lost a little bit of pace right there, but managed to retain the position.
Close again, very close between the two of them as they run down in towards 1 and 2 again. Lundberg getting past Homer, and that is just about going to save Uvenen here. There's another scrape on the wall, this time for Daniel Homer, out of turn number 2, or 4 rather. Talked about do it at one point. Marcus Hagman's into the pit lane, by the way, as we get towards the stage. It's lap 65, and out front, Jesper Eriksson has led pretty much every lap. He didn't qualify on pole this time round. That went to Alexander Aurton, but it's going to be another stage win to Jesper Eriksson. Over the line after lap 65, he picks up his 7th stage win of the season. He'll end the season on 122 stage points here at the end of 2024-25. That's more points, by the way, than 12 of our bottom drivers have scored overall at the end of races. He scored them in stage points, and immediately afterwards, he pits in. Into the pit lane for Daniel Homer. So it's his teammate, excuse me, not Jesper Eriksson himself, who makes that pit stop. But he will make the long trip down towards the end of pit lane. And now the games are going to start to begin. But since they've gone this far, I'm a little bit surprised that we've not seen him try and go halfway. Maybe that's what more of these drivers are going to be aiming for. Lap 78 and that halfway distance.
Something, I don't think someone would go crazy enough to try to go for maybe like 80 something laps. As drivers just nearly decided to go 3 wide right there. Lundberg trying to find a position on Ovinen, but the 84 remains down on his defense. But I agree with you. I think the delta for these guys in the lead might be like lap 73 to 79 to lap 80-ish if they make it this far, and maybe for try to elongate a second stint to get you to the end of the race.
Let's see how far they can take it. Fuel is reported to be 77, 78 laps. Maybe just a little bit too short on fuel. We'll see. As there, down the inside comes Eracsson, putting a lap on Marcus Stiller, who's spent the season starting from the back end of the field. He continues that here. He's in 15th now. Hackenschott is in 14th, just in front of him. And they are now one lap down to Jesper Eriksson, whose lead has come down below 2 seconds for the first time in a while here. Alexander Aronson looking to apply some pressure here. Has he got some late race speed to challenge Eriksson in a race which he hasn't been challenged with really since the very beginning?
Yeah, and meanwhile, I was watching this at the tower go back and forth as Forslund and Broström decide to go toe-to-toe once again.
They are still at it, these two. Although they've generally just seeped their way upwards in the field, which is a positive thing, but
yep,
it's for 4th place this time round, and they're still going at it here. Solo has just passed Gunnarsson. That's a playoff driver change for the first time in a little while. Gunnarsson really struggling towards the end of this first stint of the race as Daniel Solo makes his way past and will now take 6th position away. Can he go on and catch Forslund and Broström maybe, or are these two showing themselves to be the weakest of the 5?
Not only that, but I think I saw Helmbro to Peter Helmbro for going on Ovin's position. I could be a little bit crazy, but I think the number 77 moved up 1 spot inside the top 10.
Oh, and Lundberg's now in the top 10, by the way, as he passes Tony Uvinen out there through 1 and 2. So that's another change inside the top 10 and another bit of sliding backwards, unfortunately, for Tony Uvinen, who really should have come in after the stage, to be honest, rather than soldiering on like this. I guess all the drivers are figuring that actually making 1 stop in this race is going to be shorter than making 2, even with the tyre advantage that you're going to have, because nearly nobody has decided to come in. I mean, only Hagman and Holber decided to come in right around that stage point, and for whatever reason, none of the others are really interested. Hagman last time round, though, was over a second faster than the race leader. I don't see how that wouldn't be quicker.
Yeah, you can kind of make that argument, but then again, because they're in the lead and something like that, I think it's stick to the plan as long as you can and try to make it out to the end. As we see Stiller going on the inside, and this is a battle for position for Aronson. This is going to be horrendous, just like it was for Eriksson. That's why the gap went lower than 2 seconds. So. Well, you know when I say traffic gives and traffic takes, right? Multiple times we say that even on multi-class racing for NASCAR, that applies as well. Oval racing is just like that.
And it is certainly taking away from Aronson here. They do stay high there, though. That was quite nice from the two of them, laying him through on the inside of 3 and 4 as they complete lap 74 in this race. And immediately Stiller goes to take advantage of that by taking Skoglund on the inside. Meanwhile, into the pit lane after 75 laps, Jesper Eriksson is in. Does that mean he would be short on fuel if this race were to be a 1 stop at the end of the day? Because I don't see the point of carrying on to lap 75 there. If this is tactical, why wouldn't you come in after lap 65 and sort of cut your losses with that tyre set? Jesper Eriksson in from the lead at perhaps a slightly concerning moment.
Yes, my biggest concern is how long can Eracingligan go and blitz this well, because they've been in the back. They can kind of have saved a little bit more fuel. You can see Eracingligan might go for 1 more lap, and here's the thing: even the laps they go more inwards, if he reaches 83, I'm not gonna be telling you, but I probably gonna be biting my nails because he can make it to the end if he just goes on a saving spree once again.
Here comes Eriksson out of the pit lane and onto the circuit again. Off of the dogleg. This is going to be very interesting indeed. He immediately unlaps himself from Forslund, and Aronson does respond, although he's completed 77 laps. They're still not quite halfway. We're not quite halfway yet, and Blix is in as well. That's 3 of our championship contenders in, a couple of laps short. Solo and Gunnarsson in as well. So Forsund and Broström have got the fuel, but it's two non-playoff drivers. Not a single playoff driver has got enough fuel to make it to halfway, and therefore not enough fuel to make it a one-stop race either.
Yeah, but I don't think the one-stop race is going to be the thing to go in this race. Now eyes for me on Eracingligan because he has I would say two last laps in than the race leader. This could work out in effect for him. Question is, can he pass on those tires once he comes out of the pit lane? Because Ericsson's already gone by. The gap's 2 seconds-ish. Eracingligan needs to respond.
It's way bigger than it was before. Ericsson's lost time as Broström now comes in. He's done 79 laps, so he will be safe to make it to the end. As Forsund and Hellbro are in as well. They were in the lap previous. So Stiller is now going to lead this race. An extra point will go to him, an extra couple of points for leading a lap as the Moby Bright Esports driver of Linus Broström carries on. He maybe stayed out for those extra couple of points as well in the team's championship by leading a lap. As makes his way now around the pit lane, which is a lot more curved than it used to be, around turn 3 and 4. Spits you out into the middle of the dogleg as there's a bit of smoke up in front here. Stiller gets into the lead. Not sure what all the smoke's about, but Stiller is coming in. As soon as he takes the lead, he's now into pit lane, and the field will... Or is he? Has he just missed it? Yeah, he's just slightly missed it. He will come into pit lane now. So all is going to be returned again. Jesper Eriksson will retake the lead of this race ahead of Alexander Aronson, but the gap's going to be 3.5 seconds now.
Yeah, it's that thing of, Ericsson having newer tires, he's able to push basically the same delta. I'm just going to take a quick look. Has he improved on his time? I don't think he improved on his best time of the race so far. So I think that he just took advantage of the early pit and just get a run on. But then again, 2 laps, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference, but I think maybe on the long run that might be a difference as he moves forward. Now, because we are on the first test use for everybody, and this looking like a race where we're going to see basically a green flag all the way to the end, my point of view, I would say the delta for you to pit starts at lap 135. Then you can think about, one quick tire and fuel stop, and then basically a full sprint to the end. You have tires for that.
Of course, 4 sets of tyres for each race. They're on their second set right now. The other interesting thing about that pit stop phase as well is that Marcus Hagman and Daniel Holmer have got into the top 5. Sort of underline what I was saying earlier on. If you make this a 2-stop race and do it properly, by splitting this into thirds, then you can make up a lot of time. Hagman in 4th and Holmer in 5th is a huge turnaround. Now, they are going to lose a lot of positions over the course of the next 20 laps, but if they come in after those 20 laps and then get another undercut, they're going to be well comfortably inside the top 5 here in this race, which would be a fantastic place for them both to be in, considering the speed they've shown so far.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for me because it can show the blueprint for the other drivers of maybe a different early pit set strategy might be the best strategy because everybody's gonna have to do a 2-stopper in this race, right? And maybe the delta they're gonna have in terms of whenever they come back from the final from the final pit stop rather might just put them inside the top 3. I still think that top 7 might be the true reach for them, but everything can happen in the next 70-something laps of this race.
Well, Forsund in the meantime is going to get past Marcus Hagman, and we're going to see all sorts of changes in these next few moments as well in the battle for 4th position. Papels and Broström in the meantime going side by side in the background as well. Here comes Broström to the inside, not quite. Broström's going to be on newer tyres compared to the rest, by the way, here after his relatively late stop. In fact, it's newer than everybody else in front of him, everybody else in the field, apart from Marcus Stiller and Hakan Schott, who are the only others who stayed out for longer than him. So it's going to be a pretty big stint for Linus Broström as well. Everything up to 4th place is right in front of him here, if he can use the newer tyres to get these places. And there he goes, ducking to the inside of 3 and 4. Absolutely locked together, and Papels is going to hold on around the outside. Oh, well, he was. And then he's in the wall. Broström gets past him, and he will continue his run through the field with just under 70 laps to go here at Phoenix. You're watching the final race of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan Oval Series in season 2024-25. It's the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan finals by Gelleråsen Arena. Make sure you stay with us here on RaceSpotTV. We'll be back with the final 65 laps of the season after this. Welcome back to Phoenix, where we're having a fantastic battle here for the top 5 positions. Jonas Gunnarsson currently holding on to that, and Linus Broström is coming through the field on those slightly newer tyres compared to some of the others, and those who pitted a bit earlier starting to feel the effects of the wear now. Marcus Hagman and Daniel Holmer now down to 8th and 9th, and it still goes on. Dan Peppels on the back of Hagman at the moment as well here, as he comes down the inside in towards 8th position. Holmer's in there as well. It's all happening here. Myself and Lorenzo Bonda taking you through the final race of the season. 60 laps still to go here at Phoenix on this run to the flag. We're nearly 2/3 through already, if you can believe it. The final pit stops are coming up pretty shortly, Lorenzo, as well, but the racing out there right now is some of the best we've seen all day.
It's been very clean, hard but very clean. That's what we want to see. You know, even though it's final round, I want to see clean battles between everybody. As Broström on the inside of Daniel Solo, Maya manages to make the move. You know, near tires, you know, is a breathe of fresh air whenever you drive him around the racetrack, Ewan. But what I want to pay attention more is the gap for the lead. Remember, it was 3 seconds when Ericsson did the overtake and Ericsson came out of the pit stop. It's less than a second. Yellow flag.
Throw it all out the window, because we've got another yellow flag out there on the racetrack. The first of the day after 78 laps of racing. We have got a yellow flag out there on the racetrack, and it's for this. Marcus Stiller, slight contact through turn 1 and 2. He goes into a spin and he drops to the back end of the 2 laps down, by the way. He'll be a very long way off the back end of the field. Trying to see who that was he made contact with. Might have been Paples, who he made side-to-side contact with. Just trying to see from up here. It's certainly a car that looks similar to his anyway. I can't quite see from there. Maybe I'm going blind.
I think it was his.
Yeah, it was. So, well, we have got a very different situation on our hands now. Who's going to decide to come into pit lane here? The decision coming up now, and there goes Ericsson. You've got to come in at this point, surely. Ericsson's in, Aursson's in, Blixt is in as well. Forsen follows, Gunnarsson as well. Somebody, lap down's come in there. Not sure they were meant to. Brostrom's in as well. Solo, Hagman, Paples. Who's going to stay out here? Holmer can't. Surely he's been out for ages. So they're all in here. It's a battle of the pit crews down on pit lane.
I'm not even surprised about that. Everybody's on the lead lap. I think maybe by lap pit he was gonna be overtaken. He had to stay out, I think. So everybody else decided to come in, and it's gonna be a pit party. Who's gonna come out on top? It's gonna be 4 tires for everyone.
It's got to be. That leaves them 1 set in hand for a late race caution if we get one here. There goes the second side of the car for Aurssson. He's going to be behind Ericsson as expected there. So Ericsson wins the race off pit road. Then it's Aurssson, Blixt, Forsen. Who's going to be next? Goodness me, that's a bit of a mess. Gunnarsson next, then Brostrom Solo, who's going to be 7th. That rounds out a playoff contenders as they race off pit lane here. So after 100 laps, nearly 500 kilometres of racing covered in these last 2 weeks without a single yellow flag. That finally draws to a close. That'll be the season record that stands until the end of this season. We're going to have around 55 laps to go when we go back racing green. And my goodness, what a restart we're going to have here. This race has just been turned up a notch now.
Yeah, absolutely. I just hope that it doesn't go into that mindset of a race that is a yellow breeding yellow race type of race, because sometimes Phoenix can be that type of race, especially if you want to try to get moving really quickly. I don't think that's going to be the case even, but it does open the margin for be that kind of a race where we're going to get a lot of contact between everybody, and it can become a attrition-based race. We didn't see that all race long. It's been clean and hard between everybody. Maybe a few shoves here and there because the cars are understeering, but other than that, let's see how that's going to be. Green flag is going to be underway soon.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Hopefully we are going to keep it clean from here and into the end. Only Kenneth Cheer and Joe Bohlin are out of the race so far. Still 19 remaining in the final round of the season. The Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan finals here by Gelleråsen Arena, ready to get underway again as they come through 3 and 4 and into the restart zone. That was very early from Ericsson and maybe caught Aurssson off guard a little bit here. That's a big battle for second now, because that's for the first seat, if you like to try and chase down Ericsson, who's certainly the man to beat here in this race. It's final race of the season. Through turn 1 and 2, Aurssson lost a place on the actual start of this race. That was the lead of the race at the time. It looks like he might be about to lose second place as well here on the only restart so far this afternoon. In towards turn 3 and 4. He's going to go round the outside. He's giving a good fist of this as Blitz and Aurssson continue to fight for who can chase Ericsson down first.
And this is amazing for Ericsson, because you have Blix, going that inside, and we've seen Blix being on that inside, using very well that next to the apron lane. But the question is, they're going to waste tires with that. They're going to waste a lot of rubber. Somehow, the number 37 is just going to be chill on the money between everybody and move away maybe as fast as you probably could have predicted. But Blix, from what it looks like, has a second place in tow.
Wow, Aurssson as well, shoved wide by Forsland, and that is massive. Aurssson going backwards. Oh, as the leader hits the wall. Ericsson hits the wall there. He'll be hoping he doesn't have any major damage as a result of that. But that's going to be a real sign of the pressure here as Eric Blix just continues to lay that one on him for the moment. Aurssson now around the outside, trying to get past Forsland again here. He's still looking for this third place, is Aurssson. This is turning bad for him in the 24 car in towards turn 1 and 2. Edvin Forsland gets past him as well.
Well, and more contact into the wall. Like I said before, I knew the attrition rate was going to go up as now we see a little bit more fight from Eracingligan coming on the inside, and we knew that inside was going to be the lane for you to make that move. That outside lane was going to be more dirty as the race progressed, and now Gunnarsson trying to pounce on Eracingligan for fourth place.
Eracingligan is just going backwards here. Can he finally consolidate fourth? It looks like he can, yes, with 50 laps still to go. Goodness me, Eracingligan just about holding on to this position, and now he can start to look forward, because actually towards the end of that long green flag run that lasted nearly 100 laps at the start of this race, he was just starting to turn the tide on Eracingligan. He was starting to get a bit closer, so this will be a real punch in the gut for him, because that's 2 starts now, 1 actual start and 1 restart where he's lost positions.
Yeah, it's insane how these restarts on Phoenix kind of are, right? It heats up, and it kind of throws you into an alert mode, because that outside lane, there's nothing much you can do in a situation where you kind of have to preserve your position. You just try to have, you know, your survival senses on, try to do the best you can, and then once you have the opportunity, fall into line and pray that you haven't wasted a lot of rubber, because that outside line, because of the banking, even though it's not high banking, this low banking can kind of hurt the tires, especially the front right, if you desire to push them hard while trying to retain your position.
Bohlin just that real one in the way for the moment in that third position, the only non-playoff driver who's really up there for the moment. Eracingligan and Gunnarsson trying to get involved there themselves. Marcus Hagman's into 7th place now, ahead of Solo. So it's been a good return from Hagman here after making that early stop during the green flag phase. He's made that work all of a sudden as we focus in on the leaders. And Jesper Eracingligan in all kinds of pressure here. We don't often see him making mistakes. You certainly don't see him hitting the wall very often. Off of turn 2 a couple of laps ago, hitting the wall exactly shows the kind of pressure he's under here from Eric Blix.
Yeah, but you can notice there is a little bit of a change in behavior on the car for Eracingligan. He's kind of like putting the dirty air on that inside line for Blix every time on turn 3 and 4. But this is the first major mistake. Back to you, Ewan. Well, the battle for the lead may be open.
Just getting that little bit closer again between Blix and Eracingligan out front. It's been a late arrival, don't forget, for Eric Blix this season. He hasn't been with us since the very start, missed the first 7 races of this season, came just early enough to get the points required and the win required, get himself into the playoffs. And all of a sudden, not only has he managed that, he's suddenly now in with a chance of the title as well. Eracingligan, after heartbreak in the past, to be searching for a title himself as well here from Phoenix. He's been the dominant man this season, but as we said before, doesn't particularly matter if you're dominant through the rest of the season. It only matters what happens tonight. To remind you of the rules, whoever finishes ahead of the others in those playoff 5 will be the title winner here tonight, whether they win the race or not. Get the feeling that one of them is going to win the race. It's just a question of who. At the moment, Ericsson's got it, but this is a slender advantage he's got over Eric Blix.
Yeah, and from what it looks like, the gap might be starting to pick up a little bit, because I've been looking through the laps, 28.011, and Blix nearly did a 28 flat, just 2,000 of a second on that lap. So the gap is really close between everybody, but you can see different lines, you know, done by Eracingligan, going for outside, then going into kind of like lane 3 and into lane 1 on the exit of turn number 2 to try to migrate into the bottom line, so you can migrate better towards the exit, get a better run. But he's blocking the number 95's inside lane run on 3 and 4, and that is big for him, because he's keeping that 95 at bay every single lap. The question is, how much tire is he using contact?
Well, he's high through 1 and 2. You don't often see them searching all the way up there. But Jesper Eracingligan is showing the signs of pressure right now. He's still got 40 laps left of this. Could be 20 minutes of pure high-intensity pressure building for Jesper Eracingligan. And if this continues, then, my goodness, he's going to be jumping off the walls by the end of this race. I'm sure the heart will be beating again. He's close to the wall. His line through turn 1 and 2 is getting even more strange.
It sounds strange on the books, but real life drivers do that even. They kind of use, you know, that run very close to the wall. Stay as close as you can on the entry of 1. During the transition from 1 to 2, you want to try to glue yourself to the inside, and that's kind of what he's doing. You're going to see, stay glued to the wall, migrating to lane 1 on the exit of 2, so you can stay as close to the wall as you can, and you do have still a really good run of the car. The question is, I've been asking myself, how much of tire thread stress are you putting on that car because you're doing that?
Yeah, it is worth thinking about, and just bearing in mind later on in the race. Of course, this green flag run is only going to be about 55 laps or so, and the amount of drop-off is going to be less important perhaps than it was in the first part of this race, when we ended up doing nearly 80 laps for everybody. However, it is still an important thing to just keep in mind, as Blix just misses the bottom of the circuit there through 3 and 4, and that gives Ericsson 5.5 tenths as he goes over the line here. As they go over there, 38 still to go this season. And again, really high, almost scrapes the wall again. Goodness me. They are all getting higher up the circuit, though. It's worth noting in the background, a few following.
Yeah, I think because that is going to be the more natural line, as a kind of like you already wasted the early rubber on your tires. 19, I would say, let's give or take 15 laps into the tires. You're kind of pushing quite a lot into it. So I kind of would say this high line, mid, low line into 1, 2 would be the proper thing. Question is anybody gonna get courageous and try to dive down on 1 and stick that 1 to 2 on the inside line? That would race you more rubber, because you are actually putting more stress on the car being on the low line, and you have to reaccelerate more towards out of 2 for you to be within contention. But so far, it's a close race between everybody. Oh, content for the 24.
Eracingligan just drove into the wall there on the way towards 1 and 2. That was a bit odd, but he's closing in on Edwin Forsen here and starting to apply that pressure himself now as they make their way towards the end of this race and the end of this season. 35 to go when they cross the line here. Eracingligan has got to find himself past Forsen here and then hope that there's a battle up in front of him, because the gap is growing. And of course, if he's in 3rd place, he'll restart from the inside if we get another restart. So that'll be a positive for him. Having said that, it wasn't a positive on the race start, where he did lose the lead from the inside line.
Yeah, basically caught napping. And I think even napping, you want to call it that. I think he was hibernating at that moment.
I wonder how much he'll look back at that and see that as a key factor in this race, or whether he won't. Because it did rather set the tone for that one. He did run 2nd place though in the next part of the race, and while he wasn't leading, he was right in the mix. I think this second restart, first restart, the second double file, whatever you want to call it, has done more damage to him. Getting behind a non-playoff contender for the first time today has been pretty bad for him, and losing that amount of time to Eric Blix as well, to now have him ahead of him as well, I think the restart has been much more damaging than the start. And there you go, there's some actual damage on the car through 1 and 2.
Maybe he got away with it, because it doesn't look like it is there anymore.
And it shouldn't be lasting damage, but it's a sign. Again, it's like with Ericsson, it's a sign, isn't it, when they're pushing and scraping the wall like that for Eracingligan.
Yeah, but he got really lucky on that run. But okay, judging it again on a better angle. Yeah, the car looks okay, but yeah, that was a scary one. I think if it was me, it probably would have been damage, because it is me.
It's a classic racing driver's excuse there.
The best one.
Yeah. Traffic for the first time, by the way, for Ericsson since the restart, as they will get 30 to go at the end of this lap. It's Thomas Kinnell who's going to go a 4th lap down here. He's struggled really tonight, and is now going to pull out the weight of Jesper Ericsson. who just loses about a quarter of a second there as a result of Thomas Kinnell just being in the way. And Blixt is not going to have any similar problem. He will go straight through as well, but I wonder how much of a factor traffic is really going to be in this latter portion of the season, latter portion of the race. You'd imagine with so much on the line that lap cars are not really going to race the top contenders, but they will still be there, and it's almost unavoidable that they will involve themselves in the leading fight.
Oh yeah, but I think they're gonna play the gentleman card of, the unspoken rule of, because it is a championship battle, you're gonna do your best to try not to get in the way of drivers. So they're gonna remain as mostly to the outside as they can be, especially like if you are at 3 and 4, so the drivers can actually overtake you more safely. But I was just gleaming through the laps here really quickly. It's been a dead set just because Eracingligan has been overlapping drivers for the time being.
That's going to continue now for a little while. Just for some context, by the way, I don't think I spoke about it before. There's only the top 14 on the lead lap at the moment. So there goes another lap down for Bjorn Broström. Hackenschott is not that far away from going one lap down for the first time as well. Next up for Ericsson is going to be Hackenschott. He's got himself right to the tail end of the lead lap, and there Blixt goes past Broström as well. 9/10 of a second now as we begin lap 130. Is this gap going to come back down again now, or has Ericsson kept number 95 at arm's distance, and is he going to keep him there right the way to the end?
And that's a really good question. The one I'm asking myself as well, over quickly in here, is Ericsson's pace right now. It's very good. I'm not gonna say it's the fastest one of the race. Of course, he overtook Forslund, was able to overtake Forslund on that restart and remain into the top 3. But I would look for him because he's in that comfortable position of there's not too many cars in front. I don't think he wasted a lot of rubber. In comparison to the other 2 drivers, he probably took a little more conservative line. Maybe I would say within the last 15 laps of this race, this is where he's probably going to start pounding a whole lot more the drivers.
8/9 of a second. It continues to hover around there. Ericsson brings it down to less than 2 seconds, the deficit between himself and Ericsson. You get the feeling that Ericsson needs Blixt to catch Ericsson as much as he needs to here, because if Ericsson catches 95 and starts to battle for second, then I think it's over. I think the race will be won. So Ericsson is hoping that 95 can catch Ericsson as much as the driver himself, Eric Blixt, actually is right now for those reasons. Let's see though, and yet let's see what Jonas Gunnarsson can do as well later on here. He's on the back of Edvin Forsum right now for 4th place.
What's interesting for me, I think, it is because it is Blixt's only way for him to actually do in 1 and 2 is remain on that middle line. He's not taking the high line like we've been seeing Ericsson take it, because he doesn't want to be on that dirty area and waste more of his rubber. So I think because of that, it's the only lane he can kind of approach it, and this is the first time we've seen Ericsson moving to the middle low lane in quite a while, and I think caught Blixt by surprise a little bit, because he had to kind of like change lanes at the entry of turn number 1. That I think makes this race a little bit more dynamic on the uncertainty of the tire wear.
We are expecting a 1.5-second drop of at least here in the tyre wear to the end of this race, even with a slightly reduced run as Ericsson gets close again. And did Blixt follow him there, maybe? They both got unbelievably close. I think Blixt did grab the wall. And again, it's hard to tell from that angle, but they're both getting so close. Goodness me, this is high intensity stuff here, high pressure stuff as well. 21 to go now as they go over the line. This is exactly what oval racing can be. Long green flag runs, tense championship situations in a winner-take-all scenario. This is exactly what it should all be about. And it's completely uninterrupted, pure racing between Jesper Ericsson and Eric Blixt right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and what's crazy is the gap between them has been stabilized within this 0.8 of a second gap, and between Ericsson and Blixt has been the same. The lap delta has kind of like been fluctuating sometimes into Blick's way, sometimes into Ericsson's way. This might be actually into Blick's way just because you have the driver right in front of Ericsson who's kind of like giving a little bit of a dirty toe. So it's insane how this race is with these different lanes and progressions for the drivers, Ewan.
Yes, Hackenschott just in front of them here. Just in the way through turn 1 and 2, and now overtaken by Ericsson the normal way, really. And he just backs off there to allow Ericsson to go up high if he wants to, but he's not going to from that angle. Hackenschott is part of the Moby Bright Esports team, who are not represented in either of the top 2 right now. Alexander Ericsson is their best hope as things stand for Moby Bright Esports. And that is a 2.1 second gap rather. Blix might have grabbed the wall again there off of turn 4. He's now the one who's got to get past the traffic here, the traffic of the 101 through 1 and 2. And where does he go to try and get this? He stays through the middle of 1 and 2. Now is Schott going to stay completely out the way here, or is he going to keep his line? Looks like he's going to keep his line. Blix looks to the inside, and Schott now does go high, but the gap will just increase slightly, over 3/4 of a second again.
Yeah, but going from 9.9 to 0.7, that's good. I'm not going to complain. That's a win in my books.
Well, it is for the moment, but it's got to keep coming down like that. I mean, I'm not sure at what stage in the race Blix will think, this is too late now, because don't forget, around one of these circuits, laps get knocked off a lot quicker than you expect, and suddenly at the end of the race, you realise you might be on the back of someone, but you've run out of laps here. So there will be a stage here where Blix is not close enough with not enough laps left either.
I would say give it 8 to go. I think that would be the delta. If you cannot reach him any closer in a good progression rate, I would say just bring the car home. There's nothing much you can do. You try your best.
He's going
of course, they're going to try to the end.
Yeah, he's going to put it all on the line here. They both are to try and win this title, that's for sure. 15 to go now in this race. Only about 7 minutes left of the season. It has been a lightning fast race here at Phoenix. One of the quickest we've seen all season. Only 250 kilometers in fairness compared to some of the other races that we've had this season, but even so, it's been a lightning race through the end of another lap. 14 to go, and Blix is getting closer. That pressure is building on the dominant driver this season. Is he going to have this snatched away at the end by Blix, who only arrived 7 races in? This is an astonishing finish to this campaign.
It's insane. 0.6 separates them. The second to last lap, not this lap they completed previously. It was basically the same lap, 0.655. This one went Blix's way. This is going Blix's way again, 0.689 to 663 on Blix's side.
Absolutely astonishing stuff between these two. Absolutely astonishing. 12 to go when they get to the line. And last time round, the gap was just 28 thousandths of a second in favour of Blix there. He brings the gap down to 5 tenths, especially on the way into the corners. He seemed pretty good. Through the middle and off, it seems where Ericsson really has the advantage. But how is that going to play out over the course of a race? And how much is traffic going to play a role as well? Marcus Stiller and Eric Lundberg are just in front of them here, and they might well be caught before the end here. They are battling away for a position themselves. How is that going to play a role as they make their way through that bit of traffic? Blix just with a bad turn 1 and 2 there. He drops back to 6 tenths behind again with 11 to go now.
Starting to use that inside lane more and trying to hang into it, and that's why I think the gap goes sometimes through 0.4 to 0.6, 0.4 at the entry, 0.6 towards the exit, because Ericsson gets a better run. Because I think Blix has to do more, the work of trying to bring the acceleration out of the car from a lower lane into the more banked, half-banked asphalt that is at Phoenix. But time is running out, 10 to go.
It's just slipping away from 95 at the moment. Blix needs to find something else. You mentioned earlier that there will be a lap where He's just not close enough here. You mentioned 8 to go. Well, we're rapidly approaching that right now, and he's still 3/4 of a second behind. Ericsson has done a very good job tonight of holding his rivals at in the championship at bay, at arm's distance, if you like. Alexander Aronson suffered that fate through the first stint of this race. Nearly 100 laps as we completed the longest run without a caution all season long. Well, it's been another long run to the flag as well, of over 50 laps this time round. But it is Ericsson who is just holding them at arm's length again. 8 to go, coming up right now. And Blixt again gets to within 4 tenths that time into the corner. But as you say, off the corner, Ericsson stronger. This is going to be a nail-biter.
0.3 of a second. Blixt was better on this lap. Well, here we go.
He's in that bubble now, where he can certainly get in the head of Jesper Ericsson. He's just in that bubble slightly here. 0.3 of a second is close enough to start looking in the mirrors, and look at that. Can that be used by Blixt? That entrance to the corner that he's looked so strong through. He might be able to use that to make a move here.
Both using the dog leg. Now we're going to see the lines. Look for the 95, stay closer into that inside, but because of the yield, understand that you would get mid-corner. You getting thrown out outside into number 2, and this is going to be the thing to go. 5, 6 to go at the line in a little bit.
But he's just missed the apex there. He's just missed the inside of the turn. And is that a moment that he'll look back on here at the end of this one? He's not lost that much time, in fairness. He was just slightly higher than Ericsson here as he tries to look to get some air on the nose. That's a little bit of the game you saw through 1 and 2 last time round, and you're seeing it slightly again here. But Ericsson's got that line absolutely nailed. He's getting off the corners really, really well as Ericsson, and that's preventing Blixt from getting as close as he needs to be. 5 to go. The pressure unbelievably high as Blixt again goes a bit wide through 3 and 4.
And car looked a little bit loose maybe at the exit of the corner right there, Ewan. But still a race to be done between Blixt. Blixt is doing a really good job to stay within that 2 seconds. Now gap 1/10 of a second, but that is going to extend at the exit of the corner because Ericsson just clean, and I mean really clean out of number 2.
Ericsson is outrageously good through 1 and 2. It's absolutely outrageous the line he can take through there and just be so smooth with it. Through 3 and 4, I think he's got a bit more of a weakness. I think Blixt could exploit that if he could get closer, but if you've got one end of the racetrack here for Ericsson where you are just so much stronger, it's difficult to get down the inside at the part where you're stronger. Have a look at this again. Ericsson, watch where the apex is there, just off the exit. 2, absolutely nailed again. Extraordinary. 3 laps to go to come.
In that inside lane, Ericsson for the first time using that inside lane, more approach, a little bit of looseness out of the car right there for the 37, but still retains the lead. 0.3 of a second separation, 2 to go.
And in the wall, Blixt in the wall. He's going to go wide here. Ericsson just a little bit wide there as well. But Blixt definitely, as he was trying to open out the corner there, just found himself in the fence slightly. And Ericsson gets another 1/10 of a second here. This could be the championship settled as we approach 2 to go. Eric Blixt is throwing everything here, but it's just falling away for him now. Jesper Ericsson, nearly half a second as he crosses 2 laps to go in the season. Through 1 and 2 again. He nails it again. And Ericsson's just got to complete 1.6 kilometers to become champion. Blixt is starting to look ragged here. He's starting to go wide. And the white flag waves. 1 more lap to go here in Phoenix. Jesper Ericsson has been dominant this season. Once in every 3 races, on average, he's won. But finally now, when it matters in the championship race, Jesper Ericsson is going to deliver. Jesper Ericsson finally wins his title here at Phoenix. Extraordinary, extraordinary race. Jesper Ericsson beats Eric Blixt to the line by 0.8 of a second at the end of the Bohlin Svenska iRacing Oval Series. What a fantastic finale to this season. Over 250 kilometers. Jesper Ericsson led nearly all of them. and Eric Blix just fell short in the end. What a chase between the two of them.
What a great chase from Blix, man. He tried his best to try to get closer to the number 37. Eracingligan just held his ground stoutly and basically deserved this win in championship here, Ewan. Well, dominated the entirety of the year. It would have been unfair of sorts, air quotes, to not being him crowned champion as a little bit of a friendly RG-bargy post-race, I think.
And the donuts now commence. Quite rough donuts by everybody, but there you go. Eracingligan won't care. He is the champion, crowned here at the Svenska iRacing finals by Gelleråsen Arena, here from Phoenix Raceway. The traditional finale for NASCAR championships these days. Produced an absolute classic here between Eracingligan and Blix. It's Jesper Eracingligan who wins the title. 8 attempts in the end after a great final run, holding off Eric Blix. Alexander Arason will look back to that final restart where it went wrong for him. He finished third after overtaking Forsund again at the end. Linus Broström rounds off the season with a top 5, ahead of Jonas Gunnarsson and Daniel Solo, who finished 4th and 5th of the playoff contenders. Peter Helbro, Marcus Hagman and Daniel Holmer round out the top 10. It was 11th for Tony Uvenen, who started up towards the front but struggled in long run speed. Dan Papels and Janis Lepit round out those on the lead lap. Hackenschott, Jonas Skoglund, Eric Lundberg and Marcus Stiller were all put 1 lap down. Bjorn Broström 2 down. Thomas Cannell parked it 22 laps from the finish. Joe Wallin and also Kenneth Tier retired quite early on, along with Robert Eriksson, who couldn't get to the start line. Let's have a chat to the man of the moment then, Jesper Eriksson, who has won a Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan Oval Series title here at Phoenix tonight. Congratulations, Jesper, on the title. How are you feeling after an extraordinary race between yourself and Eric Blix?
Fucking finally, I'm sorry. Finally. I have fought for it so much. I just come so close last year, year before, and it's finally, I can finally say I've won the shit.
And to do it in the circumstances that you did as well, holding off Eric at the end, how was that final run with him so close behind you at times?
I thought halfway through the last run that this is quite safe, I just need to do my laps. And then I felt like Eric's tires just came back and mine didn't. Mine got lost, I got understeer, I got oversteer, so I thought I need to do everything I possibly can to just defend this, but it came back to me towards the end. He overshot some corners and it's such a relief now, finally.
And you mentioned relief there. Just one final one from me. Is there sort of an added pressure coming into this race, did you feel, knowing that you'd won in every 3 races coming up to this point, 6 out of 18? Was there that added pressure knowing that you'd had such a good season to now cap it off with that final race?
Oh yeah, definitely. That definitely adds on the pressure to know that I have been the most successful driver this season and won the regular season. So it's definitely added pressure to that, and especially thinking back 3 years that I've won the regular season 3 seasons in a row and been in the final 5 3 seasons in a row, but never really been able to capitalize on the final. But it's such a relief. All the pressure is disappearing when you go out to the last turn and cross the start-finish line.
Well, congratulations on crossing the line in first and winning that title here tonight, Jesper. And thanks for coming to chat to us afterwards as well.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks very much. Jesper Eriksson, our title winner here tonight from Phoenix, just ahead of Eric Blix, who can now join us as well. Eric, commiserations on a great race, 2nd place, and as a neutral perspective, it was a fantastic watch as well. How does it feel to come up just 8 tenths short at the end of the season?
It's a little bit bitter, like not really, but I forgot to add a bit of fuel in the last pit stop, so I was kind of struggling on the fuel mileage in the last stint. So yeah, but I mean, Jesper had the pace advantage. I'm surprised I caught up to him in the end there, so that gave me a little bit of hope at least.
The pressure of the final race getting to everybody towards the end. I mean, how does it feel at the end of this season to have come so close, knowing that at the end you missed, was it 7 or 8 races at the start of this season? To still be this close, you must be pleased with your performance this year.
Yeah, I mean, we joined the league with like the bare minimum rounds to qualify for the playoffs. we joined it just to have some fun and hopefully get all the cars into the playoffs. We managed to do that. Got all our 3 cars into the playoffs. So that's the biggest goal of the season: have fun and get all the cars into the playoffs.
Well, as a team, it was a successful season from the point you joined. So congratulations on your part in that, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us after the race tonight as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That is Eric Blix, the second place in the championship this season, just ahead of Alexander Eracingligan, who finishes in third. Alexander, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Pole position for you tonight, but third place at the end. What was the key point in the race for you? Was it losing the race lead off the start, or was it the restart after the only caution of the day that was really what undid your season in the end?
Yeah, it's good to be back with you guys. It's been a while. I don't know. I mean, obviously losing the start of the race was a bit of a bummer, but it wasn't the end of the race. It's a long race, and I think I gained a little bit on Jesper just ahead of the first pit stop, and then somehow I gained maybe 3 seconds after the stop. I'm not sure why, if he was saving fuel or what. I'm guessing it was. But if it had gone green the whole race, then maybe I could have been in with a shot at the end of the race to get near to him, but probably not. But the biggest, the most negative thing for me in the race was the caution when I had to restart on the outside, which is clear disadvantage here. I'd love to have a choose code in iRacing, but I don't think that's going to be coming anytime soon. So I lost 2 spots there and got stuck behind Edvin Forsland, and couldn't get around him until he got stuck behind a lap car. But then it was too late.
It's still third place at the end of the season, and as you said there, it's been a while since we've chatted to you, but there's been some consistent results across the course of the playoffs that have seen you get into the final 5. In the end, how pleased or not are you at the end of the season to be third overall in the end?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be happy with that third place. I mean, with the quality of drivers we have in the field, and the pace Jesper has shown all season, he's the worthy winner, of course, of the championship. And Eric Blix, I mean, he's been consistent as well since he's come back to the league. So I mean, he obviously deserves the second place as well. So I'm happy with third.
Well, congratulations on that third place tonight and for the season as well. And thanks for coming back to chat with us as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, and just a big shout out to our sponsors, Mabi Höbeiland and Bohlins as well. They help us, get the fast cars through the track every week.
And thanks very much. That's Alexander Eracingligan in third place here tonight and indeed this season in the 2024-25 Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan here from Phoenix. That's just about going to do it for us tonight, but one more interview, of course, with the big boss, Linus Broström, to come before we sign off tonight. Linus, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Let's before we get to the season and everything like that, let's just briefly touch on your race tonight at Phoenix. How did you feel out there with and in the end, a nice top 5 result for you?
Yeah, thanks. It was a pretty good race on my part. Better than I would have expected, actually. So, didn't really have anything to race for apart from the team's championship, so I could relax a bit and had some good pace, which kind of surprised me. And yeah, it was fun to watch the battle at the front, and we had a pretty close battle in the team's championship in the end as well. We ended up losing by 0.7 points, so I had to send it at the end there. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, but overall it was a really fun race. Could have done with a few more cautions though.
Well, yeah, I guess that a few people may have been feeling the same, but it is the end of the season, and there are likely to be less cautions anyway, as we've certainly seen over the last couple of rounds of the championship. Let's talk about the season as a whole, though. We've had 19 rounds from at the end of August, I think the first round was. It's been a long stretching season over the course of the winter through 2024-25. Gotta say, I've very much enjoyed covering it here from up here. How has it been from behind the scenes from your perspective?
Yeah, for the most part, it's been pretty good. The racing has been phenomenal, so that obviously helps. We've had great turnouts the whole season. I think today was the lowest with 21, but that always happens towards the end of the playoffs. The road series has been amazing, even though we had one winner in every race pretty much. But yeah, to see the championship come down to a battle at the end there between two of the best drivers in the championship, you can't really ask for for much more, and thankfully the guy with 7 wins on the season ended up winning the championship. You know, I'm not supposed to be biased, but looking at the amount of wins on all the drivers this season, I think Jesper deserves it more than anybody. So huge congratulations to him, and can't wait for us to be back here on RaceSpot in September.
Absolutely, and we'll be showing a video at the end of here, by the way, as to what's to come in the future. Is there anybody, Linus, you'd like to thank, or any announcement you'd like to make, or anything like that before we let you go and end up this evening?
Well, just thank all of our sponsors, Bohlin, Sierbo, Mabi Hyrbilar, Gelleråsen, Arena, Ari81, Bright Esports, Lagerkungen, Monster Racing, and SimRace Sweden. All the drivers, everyone who's sponsored the different races. You guys at RaceSpot for doing the great coverage, and yeah, if you've ever thought about joining the league, if you're a Swedish sim racer and want to join Swedish sim racing, then or Swedish e-racing, I should say, then now would be the perfect time, because we got some great racing coming up this summer, both on the road course side and on the oval side. So I think you'll see the announcement on that here in about a minute or so. But all the road courses are free, and all the ovals are tracks that you will see in pretty much every oval series. So now would be the perfect time for you to join if you'd like to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks very much, Linus, for coming to chat to us at the end of the season, and I'm sure we'll see you again very soon next season. And as Linus says, we'll be seeing a video in a couple of moments' time as to what is to come in the future. But for now, for the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan 2024-25 season, it is complete in the Oval Series, and you could say the circle has been complete with Jesper Eriksson finally getting his title. His 7th win of the season here at Phoenix has finally given himself that victory that he's been waiting for so long. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Lorenzo Bonda here tonight, and Hugo Luis has been behind the cameras as we say goodbye from Phoenix and we look to the future in the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. We'll see you very soon here on RaceSpotTV. Goodbye for now.